All right, it is the last day of April, which means that it's time for an April vinyl wrap up. What records did I get in April? Well, see, here's the deal. I feel like every time I do one of these videos, I sort of try to justify the quantity of records that I've picked up by saying, I didn't mean to, I'm trying to back off, this happened, that happened. And it probably gets unbelievable at some point. But the truth is, that's the way it is. That is the way it is. So, I have a lot of records. This month. A vast majority of these, like half of these or something like that, I don't know, a good chunk, maybe not half, but a bunch of them are things that were pre-ordered like so long ago. I've been waiting forever for them. Wasn't even sure if they were going to come, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit. But the rest were different things, different reasons. So let's just dive in. And by the way, you are going to see an overwhelming quantity of the records this month are one artist who happens to be one of my favorite artists. And there's some controversy, as my friends say on Magnified Pod. But let's talk about it. So, starting out, very first record from this artist that you're going to see quite a few of, and the artist that there's some controversy about, Ryan Adams. Love as hell. Okay, so if I'm being honest about this artist, let's say I was working at Starbucks. I had a coworker who was a big Ryan Adams and the Cardinals fan. In fact, she had the sort of Cardinals rose tattoo on her arm, and I thought the tattoo was cool. I didn't know much about the group or about Ryan Adams, and so I sort of dove in a little bit there, and then we carried Ryan Adams in our store in Starbucks when we sold Easy Tiger and Follow the Lights. Both of those were sold in our stores. I think at one point we even sold like Cold Roses and that. I don't know. I did what I often do when I found an artist that I really, really loved their sound. I bought everything I could get my hands on of Ryan Adams. And back then it wasn't as big a deal as it is now. But one thing you should know about Ryan Adams is that he is someone that produces a lot of music. A lot. Now, I'm going to talk about his releases, and I'll probably talk a little bit about him at the end of the album, at the end of the video. So, Love as Hell. This is a double 10-inch, and I sort of forgot how much I love this album. I mean, it's great. It's a great album. But then when I started listening to it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so, so good. So this album has, and you'll have to forgive, you may be hearing my dog bark in the background. She goes crazy for this ball out in the backyard, and apparently now is the time when she wants to do that. But so this album has Political Scientist, Afraid Not Scared. This is the track listing. Political Scientist, Afraid Not Scared, This House Is Not For Sale, Love As Hell. Then it's got his cover of Wonderwall by Oasis, which he sort of was known for, and it's so, so good. And then World War 24, Avalanche, My Blue Manhattan, Please Don't Let Me Go, City Rain, City Streets, I See Monsters, English Girls Approximately, Thank You Louise, and Hotel Chelsea Nights. So English Girls Approximately, and I think Hotel Chelsea Nights, the first time I heard them was, I think, in the soundtrack for Elizabethtown. Now, I'm a huge Cameron Crowe fan, and I've talked about that before, but Cameron Crowe's movie Elizabethtown is one of the ways that I really got into Ryan Adams. That's the first time I heard Come Pick Me Up, which I fell in love with, and then I started questioning my friend and coworker, and I found more and more in love. Listen, no matter what you think of him as a person, his music is phenomenal. He is such a talented musician, and this album is so good. It's so good. So I highly recommend that you check it out. I will talk more about Ryan at the end. But so after I picked that up, I made a list of all of Ryan Adams' albums, his studio albums, and there's maybe a couple live albums in the list that I made. But the list that I made was something like 32 albums. And so I started checking off what I had, and I started thinking about what do I really need still? Because I have quite a few Ryan Adams albums before this. So I was like, what do I really need still of Ryan Adams? And one of the ones that I wanted was this one that we sold when I worked at Starbucks, Follow the Lights. Now, this came after Easy Tiger, and I feel like in a lot of ways, this is Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. I can't remember if Easy Tiger is just Ryan Adams or if it's Ryan Adams and the Cardinals, but these felt connected because I feel like they came so close to each other. So that's like, in my mind, these were connected. This is sort of a shorter album. It's like an EP. It's got Follow the Lights, My Love for You Is Real, which is such a great song. Blue Hotel, Down a Hole, and then side B has This Is It, the Cardinals version, If I Am a Stranger, and Dear John, which Dear John had been on another album. But I just love this album. I love it so much. Follow the Lights is a great song, but really, My Love for You Is Real is for me to stand out on this album. Really good. And what happened is that Universal Music, who sells his albums, put this one and another one up for a really good price. And I was like, you know what? I want them. I want to get them. So one was Follow the Lights, and the other one was Demolition. Now, Demolition is an album by Ryan Adams that I am not as, like, I didn't listen to as much. It's a little more rock and roll, but I do really like it. And listening to it again for the first time in a while really helped me to remember how good of an album it is. I wouldn't put it on the same level as Love Is Hell or Follow the Lights, but I do. It's a great album all the way through. So you can see right off the bat, we've got 3 Ryan Adams albums, and sometimes they're solo, sometimes they're in the Cardinals, like Love Is Hell is solo, Demolition solo, Follow the Lights is and the Cardinals, but both great things. Okay, so then my wife and I went to the Punk in Drublic Festival here in Fort Worth, and if I'm being honest, we went for the opening band, which is a ska band from Philly called Catbite. I've talked about them before, got several of their records, have had them on the podcast. They're fantastic. They're really talented. But I had never seen them live. They came twice to DFW, and I missed them. And so this time, I got to go see them. I'm really thankful that I had the opportunity. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to just because ticket sales were crazy, but the band themselves, just really awesome people, kind of helped me to make sure I could make it. They had all kinds of drama trying to get there because of plane delays, flight delays, and all that, and then they had to leave almost immediately after. But what a show it was. They were the main reason we went, and they were amazing. And then the next reason we went was the band after them, which was a band called the Co-Defendants. Now, so the next album is the Co-Defendants that we picked up at Punk in Drublic Festival. Now, this is the briefcase version. This is apparently the most rare version of this. Prices were pretty good at the festival. We bought this for $45. And on Discogs, the lowest this is sold for is $200. But it's a great album. It's got such they've got such an interesting sound that I really like. It mixes hip hop and punk and like flamenco and like all these different styles together, and it just sounds great. So highly recommend. And they put on a great show at Punk in Drublic. So definitely got that. Okay, so then one day, my wife and I went to the record store just to kill some time. And when I was at the record store, I saw that they had this, Ryan Adams Wednesdays. Now, I will admit, I've said this before on the videos, have a little bit of musical ADHD. When this album came out, I was like chasing other music. I was, not thinking about Ryan Adams that much. So I really hadn't heard this album that much, but this was an album that kept coming up as being like one of his best. Like a really, really phenomenal, like a latter years maybe version of Heartbreaker. Like it's his second half Heartbreaker or something. That's high praise, because Heartbreaker is my favorite album by him. So I was like, okay, I got to check it out. Picked it up. It's really good. Most of these Ryan Adams albums are just black vinyl, which is cool. That's fine. So, and that one came with a little 7-inch that has the red and orange special. So it's got red and orange on side A, and it's got Somewhere It's Spring on side B. I think this is also just black vinyl. Yep. So a little 7-inch that came with Wednesday. So then my wife and I bought tickets to go see Derek Webb, and we're actually going, so I'm recording this on April 30th. We're going May 5th to see Derek Webb perform here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been a fan of Derek Webb for a long, long time. If you don't know Derek Webb, he used to be in a band called Caedmon's Call, and then he did some solo work. So he kind of started in the Christian scene. He no longer identifies as a Christian, but he's still really open, and he's still asking a lot of questions about his faith, and that led to this album, which is the Jesus Hypothesis. So this is on double white vinyl, and it's a super good album. I really love Derek Webb, and his music has meant so much to me over the years. He has caused me to question some things and wrestle with some things, and ultimately I've come out, I'm still a Christian, but I have, I would say that my faith has changed quite a bit from what it used to be, and I'm so happy that I've been able to walk through those changes. I love also how he loves people. So Derek's one of those artists that has meant a lot to me over the years and is really kind of way up there for me. So the Jesus Hypothesis, so glad to have it. And it came autographed, which is pretty cool. So I'm so looking forward to seeing him here in a few days. That will be exciting. So then the next album that I got, my wife and I went on a date one day, and we stopped at a new record store I'd never been to before. And while we were there, we found the Decemberists' "I'll Be Your Girl." This is kind of like Wednesdays from Ryan Adams. Excuse me, I'm stumbling over my words today. It's kind of like Wednesdays for Ryan Adams. This is a period when I wasn't listening to the Decemberists as much, but they've been a band that has meant so much to me over the years. I feel like I've said that a lot, but I mainly buy albums by bands that are that significant to me. These are way up there. I mean, probably in the top 10 bands, top 20 bands for sure. And so when I saw an album I didn't have, I had to jump on it when it comes to the Decemberists. Now this one is, let's see if I can get this out, on this really rich translucent blue, really beautiful color. So really glad to add that to the collection, and it's a beautiful album. Their new album is available for pre-order now, and so I'm looking forward to that. I've got that pre-ordered. I think it comes out in like June or something. I can't remember exactly, but definitely looking forward to that. Decemberists are way up there for me as a band. So now we're coming back to Ryan Adams. So this album is an album that I ordered in September of last year. And when I ordered it, it was supposed to be here, I want to say, in either December or January. And what happened? It didn't come, and we got no notification that it wasn't coming. And we waited and waited and waited, no notification. Reached out to the company that was supposed to be sending this out, and they said that they were no longer handling Ryan Adams' business, but you could contact this other company. And so you contact the other company, and the other company said, basically, it's coming sometime in the spring. But that's it. And I will say that a lot of people who are Ryan Adams fans were discussing this on Reddit, and they were worried that they'd been like scammed by Ryan Adams and that they weren't going to get their music. And that's a tough thing, because love the music, but sometimes it feels a little, it's sometimes hard to support the guy, which is a bummer. I want to so bad. So this is the best of the Return to Carnegie Hall by Ryan Adams. So when I say this guy puts out a lot of music, I mean, he is prolific. He puts out so much music. And when he puts out this music, by the way, this is also sort of a translucent blue. Don't know if you can see, it's got a little bit of a smoke in there, which is really nice. But so he released a 4-album live box set at Carnegie Hall. Famously had a Carnegie Hall concert years ago that was also available on vinyl. But so this one was a 4-album box set, and I was like, man, I can't afford to pay for that, because I had just bought FM and Decoder and Romeo and Juliet and Chris. He released all 4 of those albums at the same time. I had just bought those, and like a month or two later, this became available, or the 4-album version of this, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't spend another, like, it was something like $100 or $200 or something. I was like, I can't do that. And then he announced the Best Of, which is a 2 LP set, much cheaper. That was manageable. So a live album, really good, very stripped down, but so beautiful. So very glad to have that in the collection. And then at Christmas, he announced that he was going to be, it was a couple months before Christmas, he announced that he was going to be releasing 5 more albums, all at the same time, around Christmas. And so I told my wife, what I want for Christmas is these other Ryan Adams albums. And so my wife said, okay, but they probably won't be here by Christmas. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. If they're here in January, that's fine. And that's when they were supposed to come. They also didn't come then. They literally came a week after I got returned to Carnegie Hall. So I waited until April for these albums that were supposed to be there in like early January, which is a little scary, you know, when you spent so much money on things. But I'm glad, again, that they came in. So we got 3 out of the 5 that he released. One of them is Prisoners, which is a live version of his album Prisoner. So this one is on like a real light blue. I don't know if you can even see how... Yeah, you can kind of see that. Sorry. A real light blue vinyl. Good album. Good album. The next one, this is my favorite out of the ones that I got. This is the one I really wanted, which is Star Sign. This album is beautiful. And it's on this like kind of orange vinyl. So this is the kind of Ryan Adams that I dig the most. I mean, he's very eclectic, so his musical style goes all over the place. Like, for instance, this album, which is the third one that my wife got me, 1985. And this one is kind of also, I think this is on a, let's see, more of a green. No, it's like a green-blue. Looks like blue here, but I don't know, it feels a little bit more green than the other one. So this one is called 1985, and this is a very like punk rock, you know, it's got elements of like punk rock, elements of like sort of the Springsteen-esque rock on here too, but it's really much more aggressive than what I normally get from him, but I do enjoy it as well. And so all 3 of those were Christmas gifts that I finally got this April, which is exciting. Oh, this video is starting to go a little long. I apologize, but we're getting closer. I'd be done if it weren't for Record Store Day. So Record Store Day was April 20-something. I forget. April 20th, 4/20. And this is my second time to go to Record Store Day. I had 3 records I wanted to get. I was able to get 2 of them. And then I bought a different album instead of the third because the third one I wanted wasn't in stock and has become very hard to find. So one of the ones I was really, really wanting to pick up was this one, which is the Paramore Remix album. So this takes their new album, This Is Why, and it remixes it, has different artists singing the songs, and it's phenomenal. It's got Julian Baker, it's got the Linda Lindas, let's see, who else does it mention here? Wet Leg, Jack Antonoff, Foles, Panda Bear, and more. It's on a ruby-colored vinyl. It's such a good album. Really, really killer album. I'm not sure if this is the one I wanted the most. I was torn. I was going back and forth, but I'm really glad I was able to pick it up. They also had a double version that came with This Is Why, but I already had This Is Why, so I didn't need it. So the next one that I went for was Willie Nelson's 90th birthday. This is the second half. This is Volume 2. Volume 1 came out at Black Friday. So I just needed to get the rest of it. I love Willie Nelson, and I loved the artists that came to celebrate his birthday, sang with him, and sang some of his songs, and so really excited to have that. This has some great stuff on it. Jack Johnson's on here, some Sheryl Crow, and Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg singing Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die, which is very different and kind of fun, and so that was a fun thing to get. So that's a double LP. And so the third thing I was trying to get was a live album by Death Cab for Cutie, live at the Showbox. That one, there was just not a ton of copies, and it sold out. And I haven't seen a lot of people that were able to get a hold of it, because it was like 1,500 copies worldwide. But what I did see when I was there, an album that I'd been thinking about for a while, and I decided I'm going for it, was Radiohead in Rainbows. I love this album. It's another one that came out when I worked at Starbucks. This might be my favorite Radiohead album, which is not a common thought, I don't think, but I just really love this album. It's just such a good vibe, so highly recommend, if you haven't heard it, pick it up. And the last album that I picked up in this month, something I pre-ordered, again, so it's been ordered and paid for long ago, like as soon as it was announced, and I'm excited to get it, and that is Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets Department, and I got the Albatross version. So she had a lot of different versions, each with its own special track. I got the Albatross version, and I love it. I think it's a great album. So overall, I'm really happy with everything I got. So very briefly, I'll talk about Ryan Adams. So Ryan Adams, if you don't know anything about Ryan Adams, he's a singer-songwriter, kind of alt-country musician. Started out in a band called Whiskey Town. And then he went solo, and he got big. I mean, he's maybe one of the biggest people in that scene, in that vibe. But he's sort of famously sort of grumpy at concerts. Not always great to his fans. Very opinionated about people using their cameras and their phones while he's playing. He wants them to just enjoy the music, enjoy the moment, which I can appreciate. But you're never going to get, there are people who want to capture those moments and hold on to them forever. And he just doesn't appreciate that. It makes him mad. So whatever, I could live with that. But I've got friends that have gone and seen him in concert and said he was yelling at fans for arriving late, even though it was pouring rain outside. He has, tinnitus, so there are aspects of like flash photography that really bother him, I understand. I'm not even sure if that's the correct thing. I don't think it was tinnitus, it was something else. But it bothers him. So I can understand there's some health aspects there. Every time I mention him to a group of my friends, they're always like, yikes. Because there's this, story that the New York Times wrote about him that has to do with him, basically using his cred as this big singer, musician, to tell female musicians he was going to help them. And then, there would be advances made. And if they didn't reciprocate those advances, then he would kind of cut them off and wouldn't help them. And that's crappy behavior. And I think it's pretty hard not to believe that. There's lots of evidence for that. There's part of the story is that he was, sharing inappropriate conversations and content with an underage girl. The FBI cleared him of that, but what it seems like is he did what, he kept asking if that girl was 18, and she kept confirming to him that she was 18 when in fact she was not. And maybe that's why he was cleared, because he was, asking, and she was, essentially lying about it. But in my mind, if you have to ask multiple times if someone is the appropriate age for you to do that kind of stuff with, you probably shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. So all of that's really sad. It really is. I think that he has been working hard to try and stay sober, which I really respect. He's got some significant drug and alcohol problems. I respect trying to stay sober. But he's very erratic in his behavior, and he releases a ton of music all at once, and not everyone agrees that it's his best quality. And so he's lost a lot of fans, which is sad, because his music is really good. And even when he releases 5 albums, out of those 5 albums, a lot of times 3 are amazing, and 1 may be like pretty good, and 1's maybe not your thing. And I've never heard any of his music where I was just like, that's bad. But there have been, albums where I'm like, it's not so much my thing, but I get it. So that being said, it becomes one of those things where, like, can you love music and not like the artist? Should we continue to support an artist who maybe isn't the best person? And those are tough questions. For me, Ryan Adams' music was essential to my life at a time when I needed that kind of music. So it would be very hard for me to stop liking his music. But I have to separate those things because I struggle with liking him as a person, which stinks. I've got his poetry books. I've got a lot of his music. I wish that he was someone as a person that I could cheer for more. But I am cheering for him. I'm rooting him on, and I hope that he does better in life. So anyway, this video has gotten long. I'm sorry. But you can see we've got back orders, lots of Ryan Adams, record store day, Christmas presents, lots to talk about. That's April, and fingers crossed, May will be a little bit fewer records. I've got a few on back order, but not a ton. And I look forward to, although my birthday is also in May, so we'll see. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Check out the podcast and everything. Like, comment, and subscribe.